Good Sunday morning and welcome to Inside Tennessee along with my colleague John North. I'm John Becker, one of your co-moderators this morning, and we are pleased to have with us a veteran fisherman, a veteran pilot of helicopters, and also a veteran of law enforcement. He also happens to be the top cop in Knox County, Sheriff Tom Spangler. Always good to see you. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
I'm going to introduce our panel and then we'll get to questions. Susan Richardson Williams is a Republican and she runs her own PR firm.
Good morning, John.
Good morning. And Don Bosch runs his own law firm. He happens to be a Democrat.
Good morning.
Good morning. Sheriff, let's start with those raises. You and the mayor compromising in the last couple of weeks and coming to a deal for historic raises for your jailers as well as your deputies. Let's talk about those raises and their impact, but I want to first ask you, will you support the new budget from the mayor next year when he comes and not ask for any more money?
Well, I couldn't sit here and say that I wouldn't ask for any more money. What I will do is look at what we need, and obviously I think with this historic, as you put it, the raises, that certainly helps us and puts us in contention with being able to be competitive with everybody surrounding us. That was huge, and that was one of the biggest things I wanted to go after. And there's some things I want to do in this next budget year. I don't think that you're going to see that it's going to be that much money as far as that is concerned. But if I sit here and tell you that I wouldn't do something, then if something were to happen and I do it, and then somebody says, well, you just lied. But I'm not going to do that.
Understood. The starting pay is now at $50,000 for jailers, $51,000 for your deputies on the street. Have you seen positive fallout from that already? It's just been a few weeks.
I have, and we have within the agency. It's very minimal right now, but we have certainly seen an uptick in some of our people applying right now. We just had a new class that came in Monday with, I think it was 8 people that we had in there. 4 of those are corrections and 2 on our patrol side from lateral transfers, and we have another new class coming in next Monday.
Sheriff, we won't spend the whole show talking about this topic, I promise, but as you and I were discussing off camera earlier, this is significant for the department. So this was a significant deal that you all reached and an agreement good for everybody, one would argue. I am curious, though, I haven't heard this. Who broke the ice? How did you kind of come to the compromise? Did one of you pick up the phone and say, all right, what do you think about this? Or were you slipping notes under the door? How'd you all work it out?
A lot of it had to do with the 2 finance directors that we have with
the money guys.
That's correct.
Gotcha.
Allison Rogers, my finance director, and Chris Caldwell. I think that we were using them to do the talking. We would talk to each of our finance directors, and this is what we want. No, this is what we want. And it finally come down, I guess, to 3 days before I guess when they were going to vote on the budget, and it finally came to a point to where my biggest request was getting our pays competitive so that we could recruit and retain, and that was the biggest goal, and I feel like that's where we are.
So now that they're, quote, competitive, and I agree that they are similar, they're now even greater than KPD, and you just mentioned that you had 2 laterals. I do a lot of work with KPD officers, and a lot of them now are making noise about looking at going over to your department, particularly now that there's change in their department, and that's made some uncomfortable over there. Are any of the new laterals from KPD?
Not yet.
You sound optimistic that you might see a few.
I'm optimistic to get anyone right now that has experience. I'm very optimistic with that, and I'm not saying that I'm out recruiting trying to take anybody from anybody. That's not what I want to do, because I know how it is across this country. Everybody is struggling, so I want to make sure that we have people who really want to come here, not to go job hunting just because they pay more or whatever. I want them to know that not only are we going to pay well, but they're going to have support of the administration from this sheriff's office, that they're going to be able to do their job. And for me, that's important as well.
Well, I know that it's a little bit of a concern amongst some at KPD that officers are now going to look at going over to your department. Have you had any talks with Chief Noel about that prospect and maybe how you could work together? I'm not saying necessarily to keep his people, because now you can imagine that his officers are looking for a corresponding pay raise from the city mayor. Have you talked to Chief Noel about this?
I have not yet, and I'm sure that we will sit down and talk. One of the things I think that both he and I have a problem with, I would say, is our people going over to the plants over in Oak Ridge, and we both have that problem. So it's not just one of us trying to take one or the other, because I've had people leave our agency to go to KPD as well.
And those salaries still aren't competitive with what you're going to get on the private sector at Oak Ridge, and they're never going to be, but that's the nature of public and private work.
Sure, that's exactly
That's
right.
why I'm a private lawyer and not a district attorney.
There you go.
So,
I
Well,
understand.
congratulations on making that happen. I
Thank
know
you,
that
Susan.
was a tough fight, but and the good news is that the mayor didn't have to raise taxes in order to fund them.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about your background, because not everyone watching our show knows who you are and your background. So I looked at your resume. We have U.S. Air Force, corrections officer, patrolman supervisor, Metro Narcotics Detective, Chief Deputy under 2 sheriffs, helicopter pilot, sheriff, and you retired in 2009 to become a professional fisherman, as John mentioned. What's that about?
Well,
did you
didn't last
move?
real long, I think.
Did you
you
move
see me
toward
sitting
that?
here in a different
means he-
uniform.
That means he either wasn't very good or he got bored, I reckon.
Yeah, one of the two. Did you
I would
not
go with the
catch enough?
first one. I wasn't very good. You're competing against people who that is they're a living for them. It's been a childhood dream. I've fished all my life that I can remember. I've always loved fishing, and that opportunity came about because I was doing some, not in the
On the
big
fun
leagues.
side.
Yeah, I was doing some of that, and the sponsor I had at the time says, it's time for you to move up, and I said, you're going to waste your money, and he said, well, this is something I want to do, and it's something that you want to do, and we're going to do it. So I got to do that for about 2 years, and it was very enjoyable, and just like our conversation was, it was tough. It really was, and there's a lot of pressure on you as well.
Yeah, I can imagine.
We're going to talk about pressure and your biggest concerns right now, past the salary concerns, when we come back on Inside Tennessee with Sheriff Tom Spangler right after this.